Hi, in this video I'm going to teach you how to find the maximum and minimum value of a function. I'll be using this problem, find the maximum or minimum point of the function f of x is equal to 2x cubed minus 9x squared plus 12x plus 1. Now let's start with the basic idea. If we get or use a random graph, say this graph, at certain interval or at a particular interval, this point serves as a maximum point. So we call this a local maximum because it is just one of those points in which you can consider an interval, and that point is the highest on that interval. If we choose this interval, then this point can be a minimum on that interval, so we call this the local minimum. This is also a local maximum, and this is also a local minimum. A point which is the highest or the lowest among the minimum points are what we call the absolute. It's either maximum or it's the absolute minimum. So it's either the highest or the lowest point of the function. In this case, we cannot identify an absolute maximum or minimum because the graph will continue to go down. That means you will never identify that point. And then in the same way, on the right side, the graph will continue to move in the upward direction, so you cannot identify what is the maximum point. But if the graph is in the form of like this, and this will continue to go down, this will continue to go down, this point can serve as the absolute maximum because there is no other point that is higher than this point. Okay. Now another thing to note is that at this point, the maximum, whether it's a local or absolute maximum or minimum, you should know or you should observe that the tangent line at that point is a horizontal line. At this point, the tangent line is a horizontal line. At this point, the tangent line is a horizontal line. Now, whenever a line is horizontal, that means the slope of the line is equal to 0. So this is for horizontal lines. Horizontal lines. Okay? Now, in connection to derivatives, the slope of the tangent line is actually the derivative. So this gives us the idea that if we want to get the maximum or minimum point, we have to identify where the derivative is equal to 0. And that means whenever we're given the function or any function, if we get the derivative of the function and set it to 0, that means we can find the maximum or minimum point. By the way, it is very important to note that when you say point, you should have an x value and a y value. So every point here on the graph has an x value and a y value. Okay, so it's time to apply the ideas that I presented. So we have the function 2x cubed minus 9x squared plus 12x plus 1. The idea is that it will be, or you will get the maximum or minimum point when the derivative is equal to 0. This is the main idea. So all we have to do is to get the derivative of the function. The derivative of 2x cubed minus 9x squared plus 12x plus 1 is simply 6x squared. So make sure you know how to apply the differentiation rules. So this is 6x squared minus 18x plus 12. And by the idea, the 6x squared minus 18x plus 12 has to be 0 for us to get the maximum or minimum point. Now looking at this equation, this is a quadratic equation, and we can solve a quadratic equation either by using the quadratic formula or if we can factor the expression, then that will be a faster way. But before we do factoring, so I'll be using factoring here, I can see that 6, 18, and 12 are divisible by 6. So I can divide both sides by 6 or times it by 1 over 6. Then this equation will be reduced to x squared minus 3x plus 2 equal to 0. And this can be factored into x minus 2 and x minus 1, which is equal to 0. This means x minus 2 is 0 or x minus 1 is equal to 0. And what will be the x so that x minus 2 is equal to 0? It should be x equals 2 and the other is x equals 1. Okay, so we have 2 points here. The first one with x equals 1 and the second one with x equals 2. So how do we find the corresponding value of this x? So all you have to do is to go back to the function. We have to find what is the value of the f of x when x is equal to 1 and the f of x when x is equal to 2. Okay, so using your calculator, just simply put the number 1 in every x of the function and you should get 6. If you do this to 2, if we put 2 on the x, this will give you 5. So these are the possible maximum or minimum points in the graph. But how do we know if 1, 6 is the maximum and 2, 5 is the minimum? Obviously 6 is bigger than 5, so this should be somehow a maximum. Now just to verify this, so what we can do is to plot this 2 in the number line, and we will investigate what is happening in the graph by using the first derivative. If we will select any number from 0 or before 1, and you substitute that to the function, to the derivative rather, to the derivative or the derivative of the function, you will get a positive number. That is, say if I choose 0, so 0, 0, 12, that's positive. If I will select a number between 1 and 2, say 0.5, if I substitute it here, I will not show it in the video, but you can just put 1/2 in every x. The resulting will be a negative number. If you put 3, again I will not show it in the video, but you can just replace x by 3. This will give you a positive number. And a positive derivative means increasing, negative derivative means decreasing, positive derivative means increasing. Okay, before I continue, please take note, because this is one of the common mistakes. When you make this number line and you identify positive, negative, and positive, you use the first derivative. Okay, so you use the first derivative, not the function itself. The function is used to find the values of x and y, or the y value given the value of x. So if we visualize what is happening here, so this is increasing and then decreasing. So this will be a maximum point. This is from before positive 2, this is decreasing and then increasing. So this is a minimum point. Therefore, we can say that 1, 6 is the maximum and 2, 5 is the minimum. So we were able to answer the problem. Given the function 2x cubed minus 9x squared plus 12x plus 1, the maximum point will be 1, 6 and the minimum point will be 2, 5. Okay? So just a recap. To get the points where the function is maximum or minimum, the key idea is you have to find where the first derivative is equal to 0. And just perform the derivative. So given a function, just perform the derivative and then solve the resulting equation, which is equated to 0. And don't forget, these are points, so you should get the corresponding value of y of this x. how to get a corresponding value of y, you have to go back to the function. Okay, so this is the function. And then interpreting whether this point will be maximum or minimum, you plot the x values of these points and identify what is happening with the first derivative. A positive means increasing, a negative means decreasing, and of course the next positive is also increasing. Then visualize increasing, decreasing, decreasing, increasing. And you will see whether this point is a maximum or a minimum, and the other point if it's minimum or maximum. Okay, so finally, we conclude that the maximum point of the function will happen at 1, 6, and the minimum point of the function will happen at 2, 5. Okay, that's it.